At the age of 6, my grandpa took me to the local zoo. This was the first time I'd seen Indian rhinos. Now, my first impression was exactly how a 6-year-old would feel. They were these huge, armored creatures, almost prehistoric-like. But something was off. They were pacing, repeating the same loop over and over again, walking the same path, turning at the same points. Of course, at that age, I didn't notice that, and I definitely didn't understand what it meant. Years later, I returned to the same zoo. The enclosure had improved. It was more spacious, it was more lush, but the behavior remained the same. They were still repeating the same loop they had been years earlier. Last summer, I was fortunate enough to visit the Chitwan National Park in Nepal, one of the world's best places to see Indian rhinos in the wild. And as I sat from the back of a safari jeep, I watched these rhinos in their undisturbed environments. They were doing everything rhinos should be: foraging for food, reacting to sounds, and most of all, exploring their landscape. And there was one moment I'll truly never forget. A mother rhino with her calf walking out of the tall grass with such power, yet elegance. And that's when I realized I was not just watching a rhino move, I was watching a rhino decide. And I began to ask myself, why is it that humans keep rhinos in such a confined space? Or rather, why is it that humans keep animals in such a confined space? Well, to answer this, we must take a look at how zoos came to be. Zoos weren't always called zoos. They used to be called menageries, and these originated in ancient civilizations such as Egypt and Mesopotamia. Animals were a status symbol. They showed that the royals had power and influence. And for that same reason, the animals were displayed for visibility. And due to the very limited understanding of welfare standards, they were constantly displaying stress. Now, moving forward to more modern history, we can take a look at the London Zoo, the world's first zoo that opened its gates in 1828. Now, the London Zoo opened out of curiosity. People were curious to see what all these weird and exotic animals looked like. They had never seen an elephant with its powerful trunks, or a giraffe with its long neck. It was all very new to them. And for that same reason, the animals were displayed for entertainment and visibility. Now when we move forward to what zoos are like nowadays, there has been a tremendous improvement of research and understanding of behavior standards and welfare science. Scientists are now able to identify stereotypes, specific behaviors that animals exhibit that signify that they're experiencing stress, anxiety, or depression. This in turn has caused zoos to adapt by creating larger, more spacious enclosures with more natural elements, whether it's more greenery or enrichment. On top of that, zoos also serve as a hub for education, as millions of people learn about endangered species and why it's important to protect the environment through zoos. Compared to the original zoos, this is real progress. But with humans being the most dominant species on planet Earth, we are also the primary cause for why animals are going extinct every single day. And this has led zoos to take on the role of conservation. Zoos contribute to conservation on a daily basis. Success stories could include the California condor or the black-footed ferret, both keystone species that would have otherwise gone extinct without the help of captive breeding programs from zoos. But not all animals work in zoos. Animals like elephants have huge home ranges, spanning hundreds of kilometers, complex social structures, and specialized requirements that no zoo can truly provide. Because even the most advanced habitat is still controlled, still predictable, and still bounded, and that control shapes behavior. Zoos also fund various efforts, including field conservation, research, and anti-poaching work, and these all benefit the protection of animals in their natural environments. Then we can ask ourselves, if conservation is one of the main goals of a zoo, but animals don't necessarily get to live a natural life, what can be accepted as the cost of conservation? And if education and conservation are the goals of a zoo, do animals need to be captive at all? Well, for most, the answer is actually no. But for some, captivity is unavoidable. See, animals get injured on a daily basis, and with habitat loss and decreasing populations in the wild being the main reasons why they go extinct, I'm of the belief that if humans are the root cause for why an animal or a species is unable to thrive in the wild, we have the moral responsibility to care for them and to nurture them until they are able to successfully return to the wild. Here's where I think future zoos will need to change. Not by doing much more of the same, but by rethinking their role entirely. Future zoos would be built like sanctuaries, huge areas targeting specific species or ecosystems. By taking this approach, we allow the staff members and the caretakers to specialize and provide the most natural life for these animals. But if we're going to take this approach, we must give visitors a different kind of experience. Well, perhaps this could be done with the help of modern-day technology. With virtual and augmented reality, we can enable people to see what it's like to be in a lion pride for a day, or see an elephant migration. And with trail cameras, drones, and other systems, we can enable people and scientists to also monitor this wildlife without disturbing them. Which leads me to go off a more personal tangent of mine, which is a personal project that I've been working on, my own trail camera. And the project has taught me just how much the less we interfere, the more authentic it becomes. Now I want to return to those two moments from the start. The zoo was not cruel, it was not careless, it was doing the best with the materials it had. But the difference was, the rhinos in the wild were not just surviving, they were thriving. And that difference really matters. Because if we want to build a sustainable future for zoos, we must protect wild animals and preserve their natural behaviors. Because seeing an animal exist is not the same as seeing an animal live a life worth living. Thank you very much.